Hello, welcome to Age of Sanity. So let's begin. Now, the most important resource in the game technically is food because it's so hard to get it. So you should try and stockpile food as much as you can. After that, the next important resource is of course metal because you need metal for everything. Upgrades, crafting stuff, crafting rocks and a lot of other cool things. Next is wood because it's fairly rare to get, but once you understand how to get it, it's not a big problem. And lastly, it's water. Now, what is the deal with the game? In chapter 2 there is a big event where you move from one location to the other. You lose everything you have in your stash and inventory, I think. And this will be the big problem because everything you obtain in chapter 2 will be lost. So what does that mean? Well, it means you get to keep your building upgrades. So you should end chapter 2 as soon as you upgraded the food and the water station to the max. Also remember to upgrade the tent. Building upgrades are not important just because of the benefits, but also because of the player slots they can give you and the recipes and also the camp slots. Now it's a tricky situation to balance the food just because it's designed that way. So as you can see, at level 5 you get 5 to 9. At level 5 you get 6 to 10. So yeah, you get more water in general, so that's why the food is harder to balance. Regarding the character, some people said it's kind of useless to pick a character that has 2 water. So you might as well pick the other character because the other character, as far as I know, it only needs 1 water and 1 food. So she needs 2 water. But at the same time she produces 1 additional water. So basically she doesn't really have a skill per se, so that's the annoying part. So keep in mind that you can choose other survivors, but I wouldn't experiment too much with that. Just save out whoever you can and you'll make it work. As for the wood situation, as you can see, this will allow you to produce fabric, which will allow you to upgrade the tent to the maximum. And you should always look to at least be able to craft the trusty axe over here and then just get that extra player slots. Now, if you don't want to farm for 10 hours like I did, random missions, I guess your other option would be to just rush the game as much as you can and just keep everyone alive as much as you can so you can finish the game in about 10 hours or less. I think you can finish the game in about 5 hours to be completely honest, or even less, if you know what you're doing. But if you want to max out everything like I did, it will take you much more than that, 15 hours plus. I also have upgraded the palisades, but to be honest it doesn't seem like they help with anything. And remember, you have to upgrade them on both sides. And it says it reduces the likelihood of negative effects, but I haven't seen any effects to that. The only difference is that my camp doesn't degrade as fast, so meaning there is a very bad event where a camp loses 1 level, which is horrible because that's basically an entire day of production plus a huge amount of resources. So that's not really going to fly sometimes, but hey, it's the game. Other than that, we should be focusing on producing a lot of metal for your other needs. Now this is easy, right? Right. Also the dog, I used it kind of like a morale chest, if that makes sense, because the dog doesn't really have a lot of tasks. The dog only scouts. When the dog is not scouting, remember to put it in the tent, and I think this will increase its morale by 2 at least. Again, I didn't really watch the morale thingy too much, but it should increase its morale by 2 points. And then when you have no food or what, I just don't give any to the dog and give it to the other players. To the other characters, I mean. Because essentially you want to feed and give water to everyone, but if you don't have enough for everyone, the dog can take a bigger morale hit just because of his morale bank that he just gets throughout the game. Sounds a little bit weird, but hey, that's how the dog is supposed to be used, because scouting is not always needed. So yeah, morale bank for the dog. Or as you can see, was in the wood. The miner will be at the iron station because you need so much iron. Now let's go over the crafting options. What is the most important non-resource based item? Well, that's easy, it's the local herbs. Because you need them for so many crafts. So we already determined that the most important resources is food, and then the metal, and then the wood, and then the water. Resource that is consumed, that is. And then the crafting resource, the most important one is the herb, just because you need it for healing. And more importantly, you need it to craft the free items that actually solve some problems with the camp. So, if they are tired, they need a local herb. If they are injured, they need a local herb. If they are sick, they also need a local herb. So what does this mean? Well, basically, if they're injured, you want to craft them the kit. If they are tired, I think you... I don't remember exactly, but if they're tired, they will not work. But if they are sick, they will work. So you should let them be sick, except for the food production guy, because he always needs to work much more than the rest. So we only cure the guy that needs it. So he's sick. So this is for injury. This is for sickness, meaning the common cold or whatever he has. The demonic cold. That's for the pick me up. So I would let the other characters just go through it, whatever it is, and only heal the ones that produce food or water. But since I have a lot of water, I don't care. Food production should always be prioritized because of stuff like this. Now some very important other tips. So as you can see, you have a lot of things to craft over here. So what is worth crafting? Well, to be honest, the flares are kind of interesting because they cost gunpowder and wood, so you can craft a bunch of these. But more importantly, the flare gun. You can see the flare gun also needs one gunpowder. So if you keep all of your flares, you can always use the flare gun, which is kind of like the thing I wish I did more, because the flare gun is easier to use, it's faster to use, it's easier to aim, and you'll have a lot more fun with it. So remember that one flare can create one flare gun. That means one flare can give you 5 flares in a way. And also, you don't have to destroy it, you can just repair it. The repair kits are kind of... this is kind of wasted because they don't really tell you this, but the repair kit can repair durability of any item. So what does this mean? Well, let's see. Interesting, right? So if you get a two-rule flare gun, which basically shoots a flare, after 1 or 2 seconds it explodes, and that does a lot of damage, so it can one-shot enemies. Well, you can just repair it, so that means... let me show you what it means. Can I craft the two-rule flare gun? Probably not, because it's later on. But if you just craft repair kits, which are only one material, you'll save so many resources, because the knife and the axe use a lot of resources to be crafted. But you should always repair them, even the flare gun. So even if you think, let's say, this will cost you 1 gunpowder and 1 flare, it will end up just costing you 1 metal to replace it. So you can have a bunch of repair kits in your inventory and just throw away everything. I still prefer to use the rocks to some degree, because you get 4 rocks. But if you repair the flare gun that is at 1 out of 5, you still get 4 flares. So it's a bit annoying, but that's how the game works. So I guess you should have more repair kits at some point, and you will never craft rocks and you will never make anything else. So more importantly, you need all of the herbs you can get to craft offering to the beast, because you all get a lot of stress or morale debuffs or whatever you like to say. So my usual kit is a health, a med kit. An offering to the beast, it's a few repair kits, at least 2. It's the axe, the knife, because you will sometimes open a door, flare gun and a two-rule flare gun later on, and then I just like to throw the Molotov cocktails always at enemies, but I keep forgetting, and as you can see I have a stockpile of grenades and Molotov cocktails, which I should probably be using, but like I said, it's so much better to use the flare guns and then repair them, because you basically get a grenade launcher that is free to use. Obviously that means you need to have the guy that gets a lot of scrap metal for you, right? Right. Now let's talk a little bit about the traumas. This is the interesting part of the game. Now, from what I can tell, only the forest tiles, the forest pathways, will have the altars that will allow you to remove the trauma. So if you have a trauma that you don't want, just go as fast as possible and do many forest path missions. I think one in about 4 or 5 pathways will give you the altars. I haven't seen the altar anywhere in the prism or the mines. I think sometimes you can also spawn in the mines, but it's super rare. So I recommend you try the forest for the altar. Some traumas are bad, some traumas are good. There is, for example, a trauma that reduces your inventory space, which is horrible. I couldn't really play the game when I had it. And then you have good ones. When your health is high, it will slowly regenerate. When your health is low, it will slowly regenerate. I think that's about 10% health lost, it will still regenerate to max. So that means if a worm bites you, it will regenerate to max again. I haven't really seen the lower threshold, but I guess this is also useful. So try to get traumas that you need. And if you like them, don't remove them. And if you want to remove them, just go to the forest pathways and do it over there. And also remember that the more you play the game, the more diary notes you'll get about the characters. I think this is more or less randomized, but it also depends on what you do them. So the only reason to replay the game is to get different events, because you can make different choices with the characters or get different characters all together. And you can get all of their diary notes. Well, that's kind of it, probably. You also need to practice a lot throwing the rocks and the flares. Also remember that the flares will kill the bugs. Well, I guess the worms. I guess I can give a little bit of tips for everyone. The common maggot can either use your lighter or the flares or the flare gun itself. It will kill them much faster, and remember, the trick to killing them is staying out of their sight so you don't get the stress debuff. If you get too close to them, you'll start losing sanity, and that's bad, so it's kind of annoying to kill them with the flashlight, so I recommend either the flare or, flare gun, half-baked. Usually these ones you'll kill by throwing a stone and charging them with your axe. It's a one-shot, so you stun them with your stone, hit them in the face, stun them, and then run to them and hit them with the axe. Howler. Well, the same thing as the half-baked. I don't really use the traps for them. I don't really use the meat for them, the bait. Just kill them, don't play around with your enemies. Clenching maggot. Well, same issue as the other one. You have to stay almost precisely out of range, throw the rock, and then run away a little bit, because if you just throw the rock, you'll actually get a sanity debuff while it's falling from the ceiling. So throw the rock, run away, boom shroom. These are kind of like the trickiest enemies, but I've trained myself not to use my light, so most of the times they don't really do anything. The problem is sometimes you'll get in a situation where they will be very close to you and they'll explode. So keep in mind that you can relatively use them to attack and destroy other enemies, but it's not really worth trying like that. Tentaculus. Sadly, these guys are just as the normal half-baked or the wolves. At this point of the game, you just throw a stone in their face and then just kill them with your axe. Now be careful, because they can hit you super hard, so don't hesitate. While Spitter, more or less the situations, but these guys can really hurt you, so this is where those two traumas that I showed you come in hand. Because if you get hit once, you can regenerate your health, otherwise it's the same, throw rock to the face and axe to the face then. Common maggot, and then you have the evolved maggot. My suggestion would just be not to mess with them, so if you kill the common one, just try and sneak a little bit away, and the evolved maggot will probably end up staying still and you can run away a little bit, but you'll still get a sanity debuff, so you might as well just kill them as well. So it's not really worth fighting them. They're mostly going to appear in the prison building, so the prison building will be infested with them. Smaller. Same as the other ones, I don't know, it seems like the game kind of guides you towards using explosive Molotov cocktails, but you need two of them to kill the bigger enemies, so it's not really a fair point, but the game gives you the option to kill them with Molotov cocktails and grenades and some of the other ranged weapons, just because you will not lose any sanity, so that's the main point of the game. Don't lose sanity, collect all of the rewards from a level, because if you collect all of the rewards from a level and it's 100% on both things, you'll get a sanity buff, meaning you'll have some sanity restored. So yeah, that's kind of like the general knowledge of the game. The most important resource over here is not health or stamina, it's sanity. So the less sanity you lose in a mission, the more sanity you can restore while you have 100% of the mission done. And that means you don't need to use other resources like I told you. For example, healing is so bad because you lose important herbs that you will need to cure your camp members. Also, you need the herbs for this one thing, the offering to the beast, so yeah, kind of like the main goal when gathering resources is not to lose a lot of sanity. I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me, but that's the main goal, don't lose sanity. Don't make the traps or anything else, because they're super expensive in my opinion compared to a repair kit which you can use to repair the two-rule flare gun or just the flare gun. And that's about it. That's all you need to know to survive in this weird game. Now, keep in mind that you can kind of skip the whole survival thing, but I just like to keep everyone alive for the big finale. You will see what the big finale is in a second. Well, in a second, just because it's in the playlist, so if you want to see it, you will have it available to you. Now, one last thing before I end the video. The tent is kind of like the most useless thing. because you don't really want to use the rest option. But if it's going very badly, you can just choose the camp over here. Resting camp will give you 40 health and 18 stress back. Plus, whoever is very sad can restore some morale over here. But more importantly, the last level of the tent will give you player inventory slots and camp inventory slots as well. That's kind of like the maximum. I think the last two over there will be related to the full station. I don't know. Mind bending remedy. Interesting. But I guess we need to find one of those temples first before we can build it. Yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.